today? All right, so we're going to talk today about flipped classrooms. We did assign a research guide. Hopefully everyone had a chance to take at least a glance at it. We're going to talk about the flipped and also the new ACRL Framework, do an overview. This is not an in-depth class on that. And today in the workshop, our outcome and our goal is that you'll develop your own flipped classroom lesson plan. We're going to be working in teams, and we're going to walk you through the process of breaking down one of the frames from the framework and breaking it down into abilities and habits of mind. We'll explain a little more what those terms mean and activities that you use to teach those. We'll have that group session where you're going to break out, and you've already seen I'm taking cards and sorting you, and then we'll come back together and share. We're going to create actually a poster. We have a template already created that you're going to use, and then we'll come back as a group, share our results, and address any questions and any discussion at that time.
Great. So I saw a lot of nods in terms of the opportunity for you to look at the research guide. The URL is in the program, and it's also at the end of this presentation if you haven't yet had a chance to do that. I wanted to just talk for a moment about what you know about flipped classrooms. And briefly, if someone could just share with me what you know either from your prior experience or from looking at the research guide. What is a flipped classroom? What happens in a flipped classroom?
Students are given an assignment beforehand and hopefully they complete it or review the assignment, and then we discuss it within the library session.
A pre-class assignment. And then we have the class. We could have discussion. What else could you see in the class?
It's almost a way of learning by doing instead of being talked at through a whole session.
Great. And we do want to get you all doing as well very quickly, so I'm just going to move to the next question. What do you know about the new ACRL framework?
We're going to develop, we have a meeting coming up, we're using the framework to develop new standards for our teaching in our library.
Okay.
And one of my colleagues has been very involved in trying to get that going in our teaching.
So it's new and
Yeah.
it needs to be adapted locally.
I just had an online class through ACRL, and we used the framework for our discussion groups and our assignments. So, it was pretty nice to know that they're there and you can use them as a roadmap. And I found them very, very interesting and easy to understand, and they were very useful in creating the lessons.
What are they made up of?
There are 6 threshold concepts.
Great, that's a wonderful start. Thank you very much. We'll talk more about these as well.
Okay.
And I just wanted to add in terms of the flipped classroom, which you'll see on the slide, you mentioned the pre-class work and the class discussion, and then there can also be, or the class work that's active and engaged, and then there can also be after-class work where the students can extend their learning. And as you're thinking about instructional design and how you might begin to design flipped classrooms, we found the use of Bloom's taxonomy to be very helpful. And when you think about the homework design, you want to think about those lower level skills that are part of Bloom's taxonomy, such as gaining knowledge and comprehension. And then when you move into the in-class work, which as you mentioned is learning by doing, active learning, you can think about the higher order skills in Bloom's taxonomy, such as analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So just keep that in mind as we move through the activities today as well.
So I'd like to give you a little context. Robin, Alison, and I have been involved in a research project that's multidisciplinary involving the flipped classroom. How well do students learn in the flipped model versus a lecture model? And I've taught business classes. Robin has taught public health, and Alison education on the undergraduate and graduate level. So some of the lessons we've learned can be summarized quickly, but faculty buy-in and collaboration are key to the success of our what we call one-shot plus classes. We are doing one-shots, but we are trying to add in a follow-up class or additional consultation as much as we can to extend the one-shot. Faculty buy-in is definitely needed for an assignment, a pre-class work, and incentivizing that assignment so that maybe it's part of the participation grade of the class, getting the assignment posted on a learning management system such as Blackboard, so then we as librarians could look at the assignment worksheet or if it's a blog or a wiki, look at that and have some idea ahead of the class how the students are doing, what the gaps are, what did they get, and what did they have trouble with. So all of that involves, you know, definitely buy-in from the discipline faculty. And the in-class activities really need to be designed to allow for active learning. You can insert some lecture or instruction, but really try to design the activity so that the learning takes place through the doing of the activity. And ideally, a follow-up class is excellent because if you can give another assignment, have the students work a little bit on their own and then come back, have more questions, of course, it's helpful. So those are the things that we learned.
So let's talk about the framework. I heard someone mention that you knew that there were 6 frames. It's a whole theoretical construct, is what they're calling it, which it is, there are 6 frames. Each frame has a central concept, and it's all about memory and information literacy. There are a set of knowledge practices. Think of those as abilities to do. So something that we can see something tangible come out of. And a set of dispositions, which are more defined as habits of mind, the way we think, and how that's going to influence what we do. They're listed here on the slide. They're in alphabetical order. There's nothing to say that one has to be done, sequentially. And ACRL has pointed out that each library needs to, lost the word, I want it down, but each library needs to work it out for themselves, deploy it the way it best suits your situation, your students. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, the frame that we selected for our workshop today is research as inquiry. The definition is there, you can read it for yourself. And we selected now, if you look at the framework, you'll see there are a list of knowledge practices and dispositions. So I've just featured 2 on the slide. And the practices we talked about, again, it was demonstrations of the way that you can learn. So we selected, just as an example for the slide, learners who are developing their information literate abilities use various research methods based on needs, circumstance, type of inquiry. And they synthesize ideas gathered from multiple sources. So those are just 2 that they put up there as something for you to think about and work in. Dispositions, which we said was the effective attitudinal habits of mind that we're looking to develop. Students or learners would consider research as open-ended exploration, and engagement with information, and that they would learn to value persistence. I'm smiling as I think of some of my students. Adaptability, flexibility, and recognize that ambiguity can benefit the research process, which right now they see ambiguity as the enemy, wanting to cut and dry. As we did a chart looking at flip lessons on the left and the framework on the right. So on the flip lesson, you have homework or pre-class assignments. And that provides your context and your background, so they know what you're addressing as they come in. In-class activities gives them the opportunity to work together, fosters communication, collaboration. They'll hear different opinions or see people doing things differently. Hopefully that will build respect for diversity of opinion. You'll hear questions. You have the teacher, the discipline faculty, and you as librarian coming alongside as coach while they're working together in groups. The follow-up assignments give them the opportunity to go deeper, to do research, to try different methods, to accept the fact that research is open-ended.
So now we're moving to the heart of the workshop, where you'll be developing activities in small groups. And I just wanted to again highlight the outcomes of this workshop, just as a way of framing what's going to happen next. So you'll be working in groups to develop your own flipped classroom lesson plan. And as a result of this, you'll be able to walk through the process of breaking down one of the frames from the new ACRL Framework into abilities and habits of mind, and activities to teach these abilities and habits of mind. So we have a couple of communication tools that we're going to distribute to you and to your groups. You'll have a poster, and we'll distribute those once you are settled into your new groups. But you'll have a poster that we'll ask you to fill out, because at the end of the workshop, we're going to have our own workshop poster session, during which you'll share what your group has developed with the larger group. And we also have a worksheet, which looks like this, which you'll be able to use to develop your lesson plan. And we're going to stop you at intervals along the way. So you'll be doing a task, and then we'll stop and talk a little bit, and then you'll do another task. The first thing that we're going to be doing is dividing you into groups. And my colleague Robin Wright, along with your assistants, has divided you into two groups organized by the population that you work with, whether it's undergraduate or graduate, and the duration of the courses that you offer, whether they're one-shot courses or semester long. So I'm going to turn things over to Robin. So now that you're in your groups, we're going to ask you to confirm your student population in class, and then also select 2 learning objectives for the class that you'll be designing. These objectives that we've listed in the lower part of the page have been culled from the research's inquiry frame. And you'll see on the poster that there's a place where you can write at the top, learning objective, and then write a brief description of the class, its duration, and then your names and affiliations on the poster. So when you teach an information literacy class, you may draw your learning objectives from a number of the new ACRL frames. And our time together is brief, and so instead of focusing on multiple frames, we're for right now just focusing on the learning as inquiry frame. And we are working with this frame, and we want you to remember that the frame is composed both of knowledge practices, which are demonstrations of the way in which learners can increase their understanding of these information literacy concepts, as well as dispositions, which are attitudinal and affective. And so we'd like each group to select one knowledge practice and one disposition for the class that you're going to be designing. And we'll give you a few moments to do this, and then we're going to, we're going to and talk with you a little bit about the next step of the project.
So what I thought we could do is just show you an example that the three of us came up with for another frame. Scholarship is conversation. It's a different frame. But here's the knowledge practice. Cite the contributing work of others in their own information production. So here are the abilities that we want to teach. And I'll just read one. Understand how the work of others impacts their ideas. That would mean, learners would know how the work of others impacts their ideas. And then we would rank them. What we did was rank these abilities, easy and hard. We don't really mean easy, we mean complex, less complex.
Yes.
And the ranking here would be understand the importance of giving credit, learn how to use the work of others, and the more difficult would be understand how the work of others impacts their ideas, understand the concept of authorship. So we're going to be moving into this very activity now. The timer went off. This is the first activity, actually.
So if you could turn to page 3. And if you can think back 2 slides ago, what Madeline and Robin and I did was we took our objective and we began to think about what kind of component abilities would the students need to have to be able to accomplish that objective. And so the list that these 4 ideas came from there, that was our brainstorming. That came from our brainstorming together, thinking about what students would need to, what abilities would they need to have. So we didn't jump immediately to activities. We began to think about what abilities do we want them to leave with, to leave the class with. And we'd like you to do the same. On the handout, that would be in this space here. We'd like you to think about the abilities both for the knowledge practice and for the disposition. And then in the grid that you have below, we'd like you to rank them from, if you think about Bloom's taxonomy again, what has to do with knowledge or comprehension? Those would be kind of the easy category. And what has to do with hard would be, you'd actually order in the, those would be the higher order thinking skills, such as analysis, critical thinking, evaluation. And those would go into the hard category. And in our chart here, we've divided them into the first row has to do with the knowledge practice, and the second row has to do with the dispositions, or what we're calling the habits of mind. So we're going to be available to help you. Madeline's going to be working with this group, and Robin with the group here, and I'll be working with the group at the end to help consult with you as you're working on developing and thinking about what are the components, abilities that are needed to accomplish your objective, and the component habits of mind, and then ranking them.
It's on the, let's see, in the handout, we're on page 14, homework design, and, page 4, sorry. At any rate, the next project is, or part of the project is to design a homework assignment to achieve the component abilities and habits of mind that you've ranked as easy. So whatever's in the easy column is going into a homework assignment. And the idea here is not to really, make it into full-fledged assignment, but thinking about what type of activity will present a learning opportunity to achieve your learning objective that you put in the easy column. What will bring about that learning? What activity will bring about? So think of some activities. There are prompts in the handout. At the end, there's a list of activities, and there's technology. Because we also want some idea of the media that you would use. So an example would be, the homework would be watching a video tutorial and filling out a worksheet and posting it on Blackboard. Something like that. So you're going to describe the activity. Okay, so we're going to give you a little time to think about that, discuss, and create. You can have 2 activities for 2 of the objectives, but yeah, you can do that. So think about what kind of homework, what kind of assignment or pre-class work could you expect a student realistically in one of your classes to complete at home and learn what you want them to learn from what you said on the chart. Okay. So we're going to move on to the in-class activities now. So these target the hard components. And we want you to do the same thing for in-class, but in-class may involve, different designs, like breaking up into groups or, live discussion, teams, gaming, whatever comes, brainstorm and be creative. But look at the hard, now look at the items, the components that you put in the hard column and focus on those, because that's the learning you want to bring out. So we're focusing here on process. It's what process will bring about that learning. And think about yourself. You're not going to be lecturing, but you want to convey these 2 components. You want the students to walk out of there having that ability. What kind of activity would bring it about? I think we're ready to share. Okay. So let's start with that group at the end. Let's hear what you've done. I think everyone will be interested. Can we? Yeah, we can actually tape it. Can we tape it to the whiteboard? Is there? Yeah.
So we have a 2-sided removable tape.
Okay. Right. All right.
There's also, do not glue anything to the wall.
There's a,
If we think about one person from your group, no sharing, yeah.
So that they have more time in class.
Okay. All
So I'll just make this like a minute or 2. I'm sure we all want to get lunch and relax and all that. So everything here is listed. We were doing KP3 and the dispositions 1 and 3. We felt there was a lot of overlap. So we were sort of breaking down this idea of what is complex, breaking down the research process using the research question as our main tool. So their homework would be some mind mapping, print low tech, and then find some preliminary resources. The hard in class is what is the research question, find related sources, and that's also teaching limiting your scope. So yeah, that mind mapping, preliminary research, we would give them a guided video of Google Scholar. Students would complete a research log using maybe a wiki, a collaborative form where they're all sharing. In class group work, they would analyze an article and develop a research question from there. And then they use that exercise to reevaluate the sources they found from the homework, what is the research question? Is that article, does that answer your research questions? Are you needing to adapt your research question, be flexible, find new articles, be persistent in your search, find other resources? And then during this process, we would really be actively explaining, this research process that seems so complex and all these steps, it's really simple, accomplishable things you're doing in this larger, complex process. Okay?
Okay, next. Are you guys taking pictures of the boosters?
Yes.
Oh, because I'll put them on the website.
Sure. Oh, great. Great.
I'll do them afterwards.
The one that came. Okay.
Okay, you guys want me? Okay, so we were doing undergraduates, first year inquiry. This is a one-shot library session like we all do. We chose KP synthesize and the D and C multiple. Our concepts that we wanted to teach are understand that information comes in the form of different sources, understand the difference between these sources, and understand when to use the sources, like when it's appropriate. So for the homework, we decided to have students watch a video on different source types, and also have a PDF of some sort of infographic available that would demonstrate the information life cycle in like a wheel type thing. And then in class, we would break them into groups and give them a predefined topic and assign one source per group and have them find a source on this topic and then present to each other with the librarian kind of jumping in and adding any sort of information that we feel is missing. And then we thought maybe the librarian could cover the scholarly article because that's sometimes a little bit difficult for students to understand. And then as a follow-up, we would have a handout of a research paper that would use all of these different types of sources for them to take with them and use as a reference tool while they're writing. And that's it.
Library. That's why I volunteered to be a library. Okay, one. No takers? Oh, I'll make it up. It's all their work.
Yeah. Well, let's do it.
Yeah, okay, so, the knowledge proposition. Various research methods based on need was what we were focused on. And we were looking for multiple perspectives. We were going to do it in a first year seminar. So we only had 50 to 90 minutes at most. And so the steps and concepts, understand the value of multiple perspectives and use them. Define the characteristics of an expert. Understand varying spheres of knowledge. And recognize and evaluate conflicting opinions. So we thought that defining the characteristics of an expert and understanding varied spheres of knowledge was going to be the homework. And then the hard part was going to be understanding the value of multiple perspectives and recognizing and evaluating conflicting opinions for the in-class activities. So the homework was going to be based on 2 and 3, which is the expert characteristics and the spheres of knowledge. So we said, pick an example of an expert source on a topic of interest to you, and why is this an expert source? And then look at another student's source and post a different source that is not expert, and why. So we're assuming they're going to use Blackboard so that they can see the other student's assignment. And for the in-class activities, we're going to ask them to find 4 different types of resources. So we gave you some examples: article, book, video, blog, website, social media, or whatever they choose. And rank those in terms of the expertise. And then share with a partner and discuss whether you agree or disagree on the ranking that that student placed on the levels of expertise. So that would engage them in discussion about what it really means to have an expert source. Well, any questions at this point? I know everybody's eager to get to lunch, but if you do, you can stick around. We'll be here. We'll be in the room packing up. Remember this research guide. It has a lot of resources on it, particularly technology, activities, and also I have copies here of the framework if anybody wants. I mean, they're easily available on the ACRL website, but one copy, we have some copies here. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.